Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about TextMeshPro. Now in the last video we talked about text and we covered all the essential features of text. So anything that we covered in the last video, that is the exact same on TextMeshPro. We will not be covering, just for the sake of saving time and efficiency. If there's anything that we covered last video that I say, oh okay, we're going to skip over this, I recommend you obviously go to the last video and watch that. It's not a very long video, but it will just be a good refresher if you don't know anything that we skip over today. So let's get started by actually adding a TextMeshPro into our project. So under the hierarchy, I'm going to right click, and under UI, you're going to see we have TextMeshPro. I'm going to click that, and we get text TMP up here. And then we get a TMP importer. Don't close this because we actually have to import essential TextMeshPro resources. So if we click import TMP essentials, this is going to add the resources to our project that we need to have TextMeshPro. So it's going to be font assets, material presets, all the other sort of like some scripts, things that we just need. I'm also going to go ahead and import TMP examples and extras. We don't need to do this, but it's just nice because it gives us some extra features, some additional resources. So it's just nice to have that, so I'm going to import that too. And now you'll see under our assets folder we have a new folder called TextMeshPro. We don't need to play around with anything in there, we can actually leave that closed. So under our text here, it's basically the exact same, the rect transform everything. I'm just going to make it bigger, maybe 500 by 250, and just put it in the middle of the screen. It's the exact same as any other object, the rect transform. Now what we are going to focus on here is the text input. So we're going to come to the main settings in a minute, but text input, our text, same thing as normal. We could say hello world, and our text style. Now this is a bit different, but this is different styles that you can use for your text. So we've got normal, you can go to H1, and it's just like it's asterisks and a different color, and these are just styles that you can use. So quote, which is obviously you'd use it in a quote, a link, title, and you can play around with all of these and just see what text style you might want. They're just some preset resources that we can use. And up here, just above the text, where it says text input, you'll see something that says enable RTL editor. If we tick this, you're going to notice the text just flips, and what this does is when it's enabled, text will be displayed in a read from right to left format. Most places in the world read from left to right, but there are some places where they prefer to read right to left. This does mean we get a little extra box here, a text input, so we can add more text, and it just adds it all automatically from read right to left. What we can do is if we write normal text in here, hello there, it's not going to do anything because the RTL text input's what's being outputted, but it gives our original text as being the right to left format. So you don't really need to change much with the RTL text. It's more the normal text input you're going to change. But I'm just going to leave that as it was. Okay, down to the main settings now. You'll see we've got font asset. Now this is the TextMeshPro font. And actually TextMeshPro uses slightly different font assets to normal fonts. So you'll see with the extra resources we've got a few different fonts here. But let's say we want to add a font. Let's say we have a font on our computer we want to add. Okay, so I've got an Arial font which we used in the last video, just a basic Arial font. Of course, if you are using fonts, make sure you reference where they're from and giving credit to the author of the font. Obviously, some fonts are open source, free to use, 100% free. Some you have to pay for. Some you can use for free, but not for commercial use. So it all depends how you're using fonts. But I'm just going to use this Arial font here. It's just a default normal Arial font. This is a font that is used basically everywhere. And you'll see if we go over to this text, I can't use this Arial font under our font asset. We actually have to make this a TextMeshPro font. So to do that, under Window, we're going to go to TextMeshPro and hit Font Asset Creator. And now you're going to see we get this little pop-up. Now our source font, so this is the font we've just dragged in, is Arial, so I'm going to drag that in. Now I'm not actually sure where I got this font from. It looks like I got it from Roblox because we've got Arial Roblox here. I'm not sure if that's coincidence or if I can't remember. I've had this font saved for ages. I think I must have got it from Roblox. It's a bit funny. Anyway, your front face, it depends on the font that you're using. You might have a few different faces, but the one I'm using is just this. Our sampling point size, we just can leave that. Don't need to worry about any of these options. They're all a bit advanced. You can change your character set. Obviously, if you're going to use emojis, you might want to use extended ASCII. But I'm just going to leave it ASCII for now. And that's it. And just click Generate Font Atlas. And then click Save. And just save it as whatever you want. And now you'll see that when we head down here, we've got our TextMeshPro font asset and our normal font. And now we can drag the TextMeshPro font into here and we have got our Arial. And that is it. That is how you change the font. You've got material presets as well. There aren't any for this font because I've just made it, but you can create material presets. I won't go into that too much. But what I will show you is if I go and use one of the fonts they give us, so I'm going to use Anton SDF. We can use some of these. So they've got a drop shadow material, which gives us a little drop shadow there. They've got an outline, which gives us an outline, and sunny days, which gives us a nice little sunny days material. Different fonts, like in your essentials, are going to have different material presets. So if I go to bangers here, you'll see we've got more, so like glow, logo, drop shadow 2 pass. I don't know what the difference is between that and normal drop shadow. Let's have a look. I think it's just double the thickness. But yeah, you've got different materials. Anyway, I'll leave that as it is. The font style, this is straightforward. You've got your bold font, your italics, your underline. You can have a strike through, so that's a line going through the text. You can even have lowercase, so we could say we have a capital. It doesn't work too well with bangers. That's not a great font. Let me change it to like Liberation Sans. So if I do lowercase, everything will be lowercase. If we do uppercase, all letters will be uppercase. And if we do small caps, it's going to work similarly to uppercase, but the first letter of the word is larger. So the capital letters are actually larger, but they are all sort of a capital letter format, if that makes sense. This would be good for maybe titles, headings, but obviously play around with it as you want, and you can have multiple different styles going on at the same time. I'm just going to leave all that off. The font size, straightforward. It's the same as before. There's not really much we need to play around with font size because we sort of covered it last video. What I will do is auto size. This is similar to your best fit. We do have a best fit, I think, down on the material, not on the material, under extra settings. No, maybe not. This is basically your best fit. So your minimum is your minimum size it goes, your maximum is your maximum size. We covered that in the last video. Now, the WD percentage, this is the percentage width that the text will compress to before reducing the size. So say I set this to 50%, it's going to reduce to 50% the width of the text. So if I make this really small, you're going to see that when it gets to 50% width, so it sort of squishes in, it's going to start changing size. I'll leave that as 0, and line is similar. It's just the height that the text gets compressed down to before reducing the size. Now this is actually a negative number. Now I'm going to turn that off, and the vertex color is the same as the color basically. So whatever this is, the color of the text will change, so I could maybe make that a light blue. Color gradient. Now this is pretty simple. It's going to look a bit confusing when you first see it, but there's quite a lot of cool things for us to play around with here. So our color preset, we won't worry about that, but you can get presets. Some are built in here. Look, so we've got dark to light, blue to purple, light to dark green. So we can get a single mode, which is just our solid color, although it sort of works as an overlay. So if I make this red, it's sort of overlaying it on top and just makes it black because it's trying to make a gradient between one color and another color, and it's just not working like very well. Now if we make it a horizontal gradient, it's going to go, I think, left to right, or it'll go right to left, but it should be left to right. Yeah, so if we go from white to, let's go green. Yeah, so what it's doing, is it's overlaying on top of the vertex color. So if we made this white, there we go. Yeah, sorry, so if we have single color, red will make it go red. It's because it's overlaying, sorry. Yeah, horizontal, that's just your horizontal gradient. If you have a vertical, it's going to go from top to bottom. So, for example, we can go, let's go from red to a dark red gradient, like that, and it goes down. It's really easy, and in your four corners, so you can have top left of one colour, top right another colour, bottom left a different colour, and bottom right another colour. And it doesn't look great. I mean, it's a nice little rainbow colour. But yeah, you can just play around with these. You can put down the hexadecimal as well. But for all that I'm concerned, I'm just going to leave colour gradient off. I just wanted to show that to you. Okay, so override tags basically decides if the vertex colour should override any styled text. So if you remember in the last video, we talked about a language similar to hexadecimal, where we could make different colours for different text. If we make the world green here, like that, then we can get hello world and the world's green. If we do override tags, it's going to ignore that and just replace it with the vertex colour. I'm not sure it works for colour gradient. It does, so it does work for colour gradient too. And that's what that does. Okay, so spacing options is the distance, the spacing between characters, words, lines and paragraphs. So if we have a character here, we can change the spacing between each character. You can make it negative as well. If we've got a few lines, so let's go like 1, 2, 3, we've got a few lines here, we can change the spacing between lines, make it larger or smaller. Let's have a look, word, so we can change the spacing between words. And paragraph, we can change the spacing between paragraphs. If I said hello there, so there's a couple of drops there. This bit is going to be separated, sort of, so each line separate, similar to the line spacing, but I'm just going to leave that at 1 line and we'll settle that back to default. The alignment, dead easy, covered it before. There's a couple, so we covered these 6 here, but there's a few more that we want, that there are to look at. Okay, so justified, I'm not really sure what justified does. Doesn't look like it does too much, but the flush here we'll be able to change, so it's like one word's to the left, so half of it's to the left, half of it's to the right. If we put hello to the world, all the words are evenly distributed, and we can change the distribution of the words, like the spacing. It's up to you if you want to use this. Then there's one more, geometry center. It will just center it to the middle, if that makes sense, no matter the spacing between the words. So if I change the character spacing, it's always going to be centered to the middle. So baseline, this is where it's sort of sat on an imaginary line which slices the middle here. So if you imagine a line going across the middle, if we made this grade like longer, you could imagine the line going straight across the middle, and it sort of sits on top of that line. Then we've also got midline, which is your middle, basically. There's not much difference between midline and the middle alignment. I think midline might be a bit more accurate, but I'm not too sure. And then you've got your last one here, which is cap line. To be honest, I'm not sure what the difference between cap line and midline is. I think midline, like longer letters, like J, for example, will touch the bottom, whereas cap line, they will go under. There's really not much difference though. Anyway, next you've got your text wrapping mode. We're not going to cover wrapping. We won't cover mapping, because these get a bit more advanced. Like mapping here, we've got a few different maps, different overflow, like quite a lot more overflow options from the last time. So we're going to skip over these because they're a bit more advanced. I want to keep this simple without overloading you with information, because there's quite a lot to remember with TextMeshPro. So let's now go over to the extra settings, and there's quite a lot here, so we won't go over a lot. As I say, we don't need to. Just keep it simple. Margins, easy. This is just a space between the text and the border. So if I made a margin like 100 from the top left and 100 from the right, you're going to see that the actual text, maybe 10 from the top, 10 from the bottom, you'll see the actual text is like sort of a border. It's in a border around the main text, if that makes sense. It's like in its own square. And you can just change how far apart from the border the text is. Geometry sorting, we're going to skip over that because we don't really need to know it for the beginning, but if you do want to know, it's the order in which text geometry is sorted, blah 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 blah. You can just hover over it, it'll give you a very brief description. Is scale static? Once again, we're going to skip over that. Rich text we've covered raycast targets, we've covered maskable. Parse escape characters. This chooses whether or not to display strings, such as \n for new lines. So if you didn't know, you could do \n at the end of a line and then do a new line, and it will sort of forget that \n and just drop a new line. It's good for scripting. If you're changing text in script, you can't literally drop a new line in script and it will drop a new line in the text. So you have to use this \n to drop a new line. And this, if you have parse escape characters on, that's going to count. If you have that turned off, the \n will literally do nothing. We're going to skip over visible to sender and emoji fallback support. We'll skip over everything else here as well because, as I say, I want to keep it simple. If you do want to know what this stuff is, so you can hover over it, and if you want more, you can actually go and like look it up, of course. But like once again here, we've got a new style, so like sprite equals sprite asset name. But let's go close the extra settings, and I'm going to look at the material now. There's a couple things, we're nearly there. I just want to go over a couple things here. So under the actual material, we have got an outline. We can tick this and we'll be able to add an outline. So if we can change the thickness and it adds an outline to the material which is on the text. We can also add an underlay. So, and then I can change the offset. This is sort of like your shadow. Like I could do this, maybe change the softness, and we've got like a little shadow going on here. And the only downside, it's very important to note this, the only downside to this is because this is a material for this font, any other TextMeshPros we make, so if I make a TextMeshPro with that exact font, because it's using the same material, it's going to have those settings. And if you change those settings to 1, so say I change the thickness to be thicker, it's going to change it to every text with that material in the project. That is the only downside to that, of course, but you can make some pretty cool things. Like if we add a gradient, then we can have an outline for the gradient. Anyway, everyone, that is all I want to show you for TextMeshPro. I know this video has been longer than our normal ones, but there's quite a bit to cover, and I didn't want to get too advanced. That's why we skipped over some of the stuff. I want to try and allow you to keep as much in your head as you can. Obviously, I recommend you now go and play around with TextMeshPro, see what cool things you can make. Like if you can make something like this, I think this looks pretty cool. Maybe if you've got a colourful game, this might be what you're hoping for. Now, in the next video, I think we are going to cover panels, because we're going to sort of move away now from this sort of basic stuff. We're going to head to panels. So this is where we start to get a bit more advanced. Panels are pretty simple. There won't be much to talk about. We'll talk about as much as we need to, but there's not too much to cover. It's sort of when we get to scroll rects and things like that, it gets a bit more confusing. But we've covered sort of the very fundamentals. So we're going to start moving on to the more playful things in the next video. So I'll see you then, everyone. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.